to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah, hope I get away with it. Oh, the doo-dah day.
Good evening, folks. I'm Dan Hollifield. Welcome to Last Man Standing. Everyone seems to be asleep or busy talking about rockets over on Stupid O'Clock. Don't see anybody showing any signs of showing up here, so I'm just going to go through the motions, and this will be a very, very quick one. In the early days of the Korean War, an underage boy ran away from his family's farm in West Virginia to join the Army. He quickly transferred to the Air Corps and became a fighter pilot. Somehow, he became useful to several alphabet agencies, so he was recruited to help them during the Cold War. Eventually, he got tired of being a spy and tried to retire. Fate had other ideas. These are some of the early adventures of Captain Tom Darby of the U.S. Army Air Corps. From before that fateful night, he rode his motorcycle around a curve too fast on a back road in rural Georgia and accidentally began a new life entirely. Well, folks, I've given it 15 minutes. Everyone is either those that are awake are still talking rockets with Zach over on Stupid O'Clock on their unrecorded after show. This used to be the after show for Stupid O'Clock where we would do that sort of thing, but now that the world is returning to a uh, non-plague normal, there's less and less call for someone to sit up late at night and just play host for a bunch of people that wanted to keep talking and talking and talking and talking. Um, the musical interlude you enjoyed, or I hope you enjoyed, was a song of mine called Watching Paint Dry. Um, was inspired by um, having done something and unable to do the second coat of paint until the first one had time to at least um, skin over and dry enough to where the second coat would do good rather than just smearing the first one. Um, I don't know what to tell you. Um, I've loved doing this show for the last 4 years or so, but the more normal we get, the less vital it feels for me to continue on after Stupid O'Clock. I don't have the faintest idea what will eventually happen, but I just can't keep sitting here monologuing for a while and nothing going on, and nobody interesting for me to talk with. Um, Although, seriously, I would love people that would like to talk about their work, their next book, their next album, their next painting, whatever it is that they're working on. Um, to come on the show and basically let me interview them and just have some late night, which I'm sorry for, but that is the time slot I've got. Just um, make a few jokes and let people know about up and coming writers and painters and cartoonists and um, musicians and whatnot. That would be great since it seems that the show itself is in its original form is no longer necessary. Now I'm looking for alternatives to make this interesting again for uh, what few viewers have subscribed. Um, it's getting harder and harder to find things to monologue about that aren't just stuff I normally talk about in my Aphelion editorial once a month, which is about all the time you really need to devote to it. I mean, once a month, that's fine. Updates to what I'm doing or what I've accomplished or what I've failed to accomplish, or what's going on in my personal life, or around the farmstead here. Um, it's of interest to a limited few, mostly close personal friends who um, find out about it um, most of the time off of air. So we just, you know how it is. Um, the world went nuts, and then it adapted, and now it's finding a new normal, and the new normal doesn't seem to include a bunch of people sitting around sharing appropriate or inappropriate humor, as the case may be, and just generally chatting the night away. I'm going to miss that. I really am. But if it's going to be me sitting here monologuing, I'm I'm not comfortable with that. I'm really not. Um, yes, in a conversation one-on-one where I hear your input and can heterodyne off of that, I'll talk your ear off. But just me alone with my thoughts doesn't strike me as that much entertainment. And I don't want to waste anybody's time. Um, I've got stories to write, paintings to paint, music to compose, um, furniture to build, carpentry to commit, all kinds of things. Um, I mean, just being up this late at night means that I don't get an early start on anything tomorrow. Don't know if my wife is going to go to church tomorrow or not. Think she planned on it. Don't know if she's going to do it. I think she might because there's this thing the church does that the ladies do called Secret Sisters, where um, early in the year they get a lottery going to see who gets one other church member to give random gifts to. And pretty much um, reinforce the fellowship of the ladies in the congregation. 'Cause that's very important. That's very important. I think it's very highly um, useful um, as far as bringing the church members closer together. You know, um, I used to go to that church when I was a teen, well, preteen and teenager, almost all the way up into college age. But once I got to college, I really didn't have time. There were other things I had to do: homework, projects, schoolwork that was very, very long term and had to pay a lot of attention to. And Sunday was usually the quiet time that I got to do the most work. And then I moved away from mom and dad's, and you know, life got really full really quickly. Being a 18, 19-year-old in the late 1970s, and pursuing all these artistic endeavors, as well as learning social skills and dating. That takes up a lot of time right there. But you got to learn the social skills first, so you can actually succeed at that. It's important. It's true. The failures are not fun, but the successes are their own reward. Let me tell you. But aside from that, you're not here to hear. Here to hear. Wow. I hope I changed the inflection of those two synonyms enough for you to tell the difference when I was speaking each one. Language is a funny thing, and especially English has so many contradictions and so many delicate points and so many things that overlap and so many it's just complicated language. Of course, it is basically just a hybrid starting out in England during Anglo-Saxon times, Vikings coming in, trying to keep from having to fight the Welsh, trying to keep from having to fight the Scots. Study English history if you want something really convoluted. Language just evolved by grabbing bits and pieces of vocabulary and syntax and pronunciation from different languages in Europe and modifying them to fit the local needs and the local accent, that's always fun. That's always fun. But seriously, it's been just about 30 minutes and there's nobody here but me. You're here to hear some interesting conversation, not me just waffling on. So let me play this advert for Aphelion, which I'm hoping I will have the next issue out tomorrow night, sometime around this time of night, just before midnight. Hello, I'm Dan Hollifield. I'm the senior editor and publisher of Aphelion Webzine, the world's oldest free creative writing e-zine since 1997. Since then, we have helped over 500 amateur writers learn what they needed to turn pro. www.aphelion-webzine.com and read not only what we've got going on right now, but 28 years worth of our archives of stories. Thank you very much.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down.
Woohoo!
System was shut down. System was shut down. System was shut down.